John chapter 1, the Word became flesh. In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. He was in the beginning with God. All things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life that was the light of men. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. There was a man sent from God, whose name was John. He came as a witness to bear witness about the light, that all might believe through him. He was not the light, but came to bear witness about the light. The true light, which enlightens everyone, was coming into the world. He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, but his own people did not receive him. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who are born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory, glory as of the only Son from the Father, full of grace and truth. John bore witness about him and cried out, "This was he of whom I said, 'He who comes after me ranks before me, because he was before me.' And from his fullness we have all received grace upon grace. For the law was given through Moses, grace and truth came through Jesus Christ. No one has ever seen God, the only God, who is at the Father's side. He has made him known."
And let me wish you a very happy Christmas. The smell of mulled wine is drifting in from the kitchen. The Christmas lights are up. The sound of carols is still hanging in the air. And would you believe it? At this early point in December, Christmas is already here. But I don't know about you, what you're really waiting for when it comes for Christmas. For lots of us, Christmas really means family. I know some of us have already had family plans cancelled because of COVID. Last year, most of us, I guess, had those plans cancelled because of COVID. For my family, we had to meet up in the summer instead. And here is a photo from that time together. I tried to be all arty and make it black and white, but I think I've just made it look gloomy. It was actually a really happy time, except for taking this photo, which it turned out was quite a mission. When you've got 5 children under 10, trying to persuade them all to smile at the same moment was pretty tricky. In fact, actually persuading all of them to appear in the photo turned out to be harder than I thought it would be. Some of them weren't quite so keen that they wanted to be in there, but eventually we got them all in, and that photo sits comfortably on my bedroom wall normally. For lots of us, family is what Christmas is all about. And whether we spotted it or not, the Christmas message presents us with 2 versions of a family picture. And they couldn't be more dissimilar from one another. I don't mean those tinsel-framed pictures of the nativity scene that you'll see in most shops at this time of year or on Christmas cards, but rather 2 family pictures at the center of the message of Christmas, the message that was scattered through our carols, the message embedded at the center of that last reading. The central message of Christmas gives us 2 family pictures, and the question for us this Christmas time is which of those 2 pictures you want to be in. It might be that you've not spotted the 2 pictures as we were having the readings read, so let me invite you to turn to this copy of John's Gospel that you've got on your seat. Turn to page 3. Let me draw our attention to the 2 pictures right in the center of that reading, in the middle of the page there. Firstly, the image of a broken family. Just look for the tiny number 10 and listen to what John says about Jesus. Verse 10, "He was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own people did not receive him." It's an extraordinary picture with which to begin an account of Jesus' life. I wonder if you knew that about the time that Jesus walked the earth, that when he came into this world, he wasn't generally greeted with fanfare and celebration. On the contrary, his own people did not receive him. We've seen very public examples of being rejected by your own people over these last couple of years, haven't we? Normally, you'd think it was inconceivable. And yet, the moment COVID hit, people were trying to go back to their home countries and often barred from entry, locked out. Sometimes just locked into quarantine hotels. But when some countries didn't have enough space for that, people were essentially barred from coming in until they had space. Locked out, barred from entry. For countries to reject their own has been shocking, as we've seen it on the news. But it's even more shocking here for Jesus to be rejected by his own when we realize who he is. Just a bit further up the page, verse 3, we're told that he's the creator. Verse 3, all things were made through him, and without him was not anything made that was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. Sometimes we'll talk about someone being the life and soul of the party, that the room lights up when they walk into it. Well, Jesus, he is the source of all life and light, the life and soul of the universe, if you like. The whole world lights up when he enters it. It was the promise of Isaiah, that first reading, that light would come. And when Jesus stepped into the world, he was light and life. Later on in this account that you've got in your hands, he says that he came that we might have life and have it abundantly. Our last carol is going to say light and life to all he brings. That is who we're talking about here. And so to reject him is to reject light and life. It's to embrace darkness and death. Indeed, as Jesus warns later in this account, to reject our Creator will ultimately mean facing his judgment. To reject your own is already inconceivable. To reject the Creator, it's almost unbelievable. And yet it is the way that every one of us has responded to the God who made us. Verse 10, he was in the world, and the world was made through him, yet the world did not know him. All of us, if we reflect on our lives, can say that we've not lived with God as our ruler. And we've not honored him as creator. We want to live lives our own way. And we don't want him to rule over us. And so we've tried to lock him out. Tried to bar him entry on our lives. But we're rejecting the source of light and life. We're embracing darkness and death. That's why so much is messed up in the world. And Jesus warns us of a judgment to come. The first family picture is a shocking image. But the second image, well, it's also shocking, but it is so very wonderful. Just look on to sentence 12, verse 12 in that paragraph. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. It's remarkable that someone might reject the Creator who stepped into the world, try and lock him out, bar him access to our lives. And yet even more remarkable that that same Creator would step into the world in order to invite us into his family. To those who rejected him, to all of us who deserve his anger, whoever you are this evening, Jesus extends this amazing invitation. Anyone who receives him, anyone who believes in his name will be forgiven, restored, adopted into his family. To all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God. Some people think that you need to be a particular person, do a particular set of things in order to get into God's family. That if you're born into a particular family or in a particular country, that's how you become a Christian. Or that if you do the right thing, obey the right set of commandments, that's how you'll get welcomed into his family. But Jesus doesn't extend his invitation to those who are good enough. Look again at verse 12. It's really surprising. Verse 12. To all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. It's not by being born in a particular family. It's not by obeying a particular set of rules that you get into his family. It is simply by believing in his name. It is for all who receive Jesus. As we sang earlier this evening, in this world of sin, where meek souls will receive him, still the dear Christ enters in. His offer is available to every one of us who will receive it with an open hand as a gift. And what an amazing gift to be adopted into this family. I'm aware that while many of us will have had wonderful experience of family, there'll be some of us for whom family brings to mind all sorts of unhappy memories. Maybe there's some here who've never seen some of our families. Maybe we've never met our parents. Others of us gone through childhood in an unstable or insecure family relationship. For some of us, it might be hard to see the invitation here as a wonderful thing. But adoption into the family of God is the greatest of all gifts. The late theologian Jim Packer has put it this way: in God's family, you have absolute stability and security. The parent is entirely wise and good, and the child's position is permanently assured. God is not a bad father, but a good one. And he goes on to draw out why being part of the family is so good. The confidence we have to approach the creator of the world in prayer. The comfort we have to step into this troubling world knowing the God who is in charge. And the assurance it gives us in the face of death. Every one of us, over these last couple of years, we've had to grapple, if we hadn't before, we've had to grapple now with the reality of death staring us in the face. But a Christian can stare squarely into the certainty of death, even with, dare I say it, with a smile on our face, knowing our guaranteed place in God's world beyond death, our safe place in that world, not because we're good enough, but because he has chosen to welcome us into his family. So many people are longing for belonging this Christmas, for safety, for significance, for love. And yet, didn't we sing it? The hopes and fears of all the years are met in Jesus tonight. Everything that is good, everything for which we long, comes from the source of light and life. And he is the one who's inviting us into his family to come into the relationship for which we were made. If you have received Jesus, if you believe in his name, this is the family that you get to belong to. It's why Christmas carol services, why all church services have so many songs filled with joy in them. It is the best gift imaginable. The question is, how are we going to receive that gift? We respond to gifts in all sorts of different ways, don't we? It partly depends how good the gift is. I'm guessing we've all had experience of gifts that we weren't necessarily so thrilled about. A while ago, I was given this cookbook, Delia Smith's One is Fun. Now, I don't know if you've ever come across a cookbook with a more depressing title. The blurb says, a feast of imaginative, easy-to-prepare recipes, all specially designed for the single cook. No longer will he or she have to wrestle with dividing ordinary recipes for four, because who knows how you can do that. Now, Delia Smith has solved the problem. One is Fun combines practicality with imagination and flair to inspire even the most confirmed devotee of the frozen fish finger. Now, I don't know who thought I was a confirmed devotee of the frozen fish finger. But all I can say is I didn't find it very compelling. I didn't feel like I needed it. I'm not sure I've actually even opened the book. But it's possible we can respond to Jesus in the same way, isn't it? And maybe we think he's not so compelling. Maybe we think we don't need him. Maybe we've never even opened his book. Let me encourage you not to make that mistake this Christmas. Because at the center of the Christmas message are two family pictures, and every one of us is part of one of them. Either the broken family in verse 10, or his wonderful family in verse 12. Either the one that rejects Jesus, or the one that receives him. Either the one that's facing his judgment, or the one that's facing his joy. And the question is, which one do you want to be a part of? I'm not inviting you to wishful thinking. I'm not saying, oh, this one sounds really great, and so let's hope it's true. No, actually, this book gives us really great reason for believing it. For actually, it gives us a great opportunity to explore it. As William mentioned earlier, it's written by John, Jesus' closest disciple. And he emphasizes that his record here is first-hand eyewitness. In fact, just look at verse 14, sentence 14 towards the bottom, that last paragraph. Writing about Jesus again, John says, "The Word became flesh and dwelt among us, and we have seen his glory." Do you see the emphasis? We saw it. He's not saying this is a good story that I've managed to make up. He witnessed it. I've got to say, I'm really glad that I made the decision to take this seriously and to become a part of this wonderful family. It's been a real delight for me as I've been thinking about this carol service to reflect on what a privilege it is to belong to the family of God. If you are a Christian, why not take some time over Christmas to reflect on what a great gift you have received in the Lord Jesus? But even if you're not a Christian, especially if you've never taken the chance to think about this seriously as an adult, why not take this away and have a look at it over Christmas? I spent a fair amount of 2021 looking at this with a friend of mine who's not a Christian, and he said to me, "I never realized the Bible was this insightful." Even as someone who's not a Christian, he keeps telling me how well written this is. Please take it away as a gift from us. Or sign up to the Christianity Explore course that William mentioned earlier on. It would be a great way of finding out more about Jesus and deciding for yourself. Why not check out Jesus and ask whether you want to belong to his family? This is a picture of my family from the summer, looking a little gloomier than it actually was. It's a family picture that was slightly tricky to take because trying to persuade all the children to smile for it was harder than I thought. Some of them gave the impression they didn't even want to be a part of the picture. I wonder, do you want to be a part of God's family picture? John gives us two family pictures this Christmas, one that rejects Jesus and the other that receives him. Now, please take an opportunity this year to give it some proper thoughts. And wherever you spend this Christmas, let me wish you a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.